Council of the City of Roswell. I'd like to invite Carmen Ford to come forward and lead us in the pledge. Carmen, if you'll come forward. Oh, we have someone else. Oh, Carmen. Oh, Joanne Rooks was supposed to. Joanne, I apologize. Carmen, you're off the hook. Joanne Rooks, if we'd all stand and face the flag.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. My privilege to read two proclamations tonight. The first is Constitution Week. Whereas September 17th, 2009 marks the 222nd anniversary of the signing of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention. And whereas it is fitting and proper to accord official recognition to this magnificent document in its memorable anniversary and the patriotic celebration which will commemorate this occasion. And whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America designating September 17th through the 23rd as Constitution Week. Now, therefore, I, Jerry Wood, Mayor of the City of Roswell, do hereby proclaim the week of September 17th through September 23rd as Constitution Week and ask our citizens to reaffirm the ideals of the Constitution by vigilantly protecting the freedoms guaranteed to us through the guardians of our liberties, remembering that lost rights may never be regained. And with that, I would like to invite our guests here tonight from the Daughters of the American Revolution, who have a copy of the Constitution, to come forward and tell us more about the Constitution, a wonderful document. Come to the microphone, please.
Thank you. I would first of all like to thank you so much for providing us with this wonderful proclamation, and thank you for allowing me to address the audience. For those of you who have never heard of the Daughters of the American Revolution, or DAR as we're often called, we are a women's genealogical and service organization dedicated to historic preservation, patriotism, education programs, the support of our troops and our veterans, and to the preservation of the men and women who helped bring this country into nationhood. We take our name, the Martha Stewart Bullock chapter of the DAR, because we are based here in Roswell. And our name comes from Martha Stewart Bullock of historic Bullock Hall here in Roswell. We chose this name partly because of her personal strength, but partly because of all the history that surrounds her. And if you're unfamiliar with Martha Stewart Bullock, she was the daughter of a very famous Revolutionary War general, General Daniel Stewart, and she was the grandmother of President Teddy Roosevelt and the great-grandmother of First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt. So there's an enormous amount of history associated with Martha Stewart Bullock. The Daughters of the American Revolution do many, many things throughout the year with the community. But one of the things which has very special significance to us is Constitution Week. And that's because it was the DAR in 1955 that petitioned Congress to set aside September 17th through the 23rd annually to be dedicated to the commemoration of the signing of the Constitution. That resolution was later passed by Congress and signed into Public Law 915 on August 2nd, 1956 by President Dwight D. Eisenhower. This year we've planned many, many events to bring Constitution Week into our community and into our schools. Hopefully some of you have seen some of the posters that we've placed in storefront windows in many of the shopping centers around Roswell, around Alpharetta, East Cobb. We also have set up displays in the public libraries and in all of the historic venues, Bullock Hall, Barrington Hall, Smith Plantation, visitor centers. We also go into nursing homes and help our senior citizens celebrate Constitution Week. And this year we have made a huge initiative into the public schools and the private schools in our area. We will be visiting 42 different schools. We take Constitution Week materials to them, have the principals sign proclamations. We give history lessons on the Constitutional Convention. We have students sign proclamation on parchment paper, signing their name under the preamble to the Constitution, so they might gain some understanding of what those delegates at the Constitutional Convention in 1787 felt when they signed their name to this incredible document. So we are very, very proud of our efforts with Constitution Week, and we hope that each and every one of you will always remember that as Americans, we are extremely privileged to live under such freedom and self-governance. And we are guaranteed this by our Constitution. And it is up to each and every one of us to protect that Constitution and to preserve it for generations to come. And we are very, very grateful to you, Mayor Wood, and to the City Council for all the support you've given us year after year in celebrating Constitution Week. So we would like to present something to you. Our chapter regent, Mary Simons, would like to give you a framed copy of the Constitution, which we hope you will place permanently on display somewhere here in Roswell City.
We have a wonderful place in the rotunda for that, and I would like the council to join me down at the dais to accept this plaque, this Constitution. It's something that we live by every day. The Constitution is a living document. It's something that our armed forces are defending and overseas, and that we have to live up to every year and defend every year. And it's great for you to remind us of that, and it's great to have this for City Hall. So, on behalf of the City of Roswell, thank you.
Thank you.
I will accept that with honor. And so.
A little small.
Let's hold it. I need help holding this weighty document. Let's have a hand for the Daughters of the American Revolution in defense of the Constitution and reminding us of the importance in our life every day.
As Regent of the Martha Stewart Bullock Chapter and as National Vice Chairman for Constitution Week, I am very proud of the City of Roswell and for all your support.
You're the National Vice Chairman this year.
Yes, I am.
Well, that is a great honor to have the National
much.
Vice Chairman present us with this. And we do have we will find a home for this in the rotunda.
Wonderful.
On a prominent position.
Thank you so much.
And I am going to give this to Robin.
So you don't lose it.
Because Robin will find a home for this.
I don't know. Robin liked that a lot.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you again. Next is my privilege to read a Family Day proclamation. This has to do with family dinner, something that I have a very fond memory of. Whereas the use of illegal drugs and the abuse of alcohol and nicotine constitute threats to the well-being of American children, and whereas surveys conducted by the National Center on Addiction and Substance Abuse at Columbia University have consistently found that the more often children and teenagers eat dinner with their families, the less likely they are to smoke, drink, and use illegal drugs. And whereas teenagers who virtually never eat dinner with their families are 72% more likely than the average teenager to use illegal drugs, alcohol, and cigarettes. And whereas teenagers who almost always eat dinner with their families are 31% less likely than the average teenager to use illegal drugs, alcohol, and cigarettes. And whereas the correlation between family dinners and reduced risks for teen substance abuse are well documented, and whereas parental influence is known to be one of the most crucial factors in determining the likelihood of substance abuse by teenagers, and where family dinners have long constituted a substantial pillar of life in America, now therefore I, Jerry Wood, Mayor of the City of Roswell, do hereby proclaim Monday, September 28th as Family Day, a day to eat dinner with your children, and urge all of the citizens of Roswell to join together and to observe this very important occasion and to have dinner with their family. And with that, I would like to invite Karen Rooks, Joanne Rooks, apologize, Joanne. Joanne Rooks, who cooks dinner for several families every night in Roswell, and is a foundation for family dinners in our community and a local business person, to tell us more about family dinners and how to get them.
Well, you can always come to Mom's Table, which is my business on Canton Street. But this seems like an insignificant thing on the surface, this eating dinner with your family. But as the research shows, this is very important, has been proven that it lowers incidences of risky behavior by our pre-adolescents and adolescent children. And I'm proud that the City of Roswell, for the second year in a row, has supported this. This is a national event. It's been going on for 14 years across the country. It's just come to our awareness in the last couple years. But it's a wonderful organization. I would urge you to go to CasaColumbia.org and check out what they do. Their research is instrumental in a lot of the drug legislation. And in light of problems that we in our own community have, I think this is a good stepping stone to...
Well, Joanne, you have me convinced. My fondest memories of growing up were dinner at the table with my father and my brother and my mother and my sister at a great big table. And I still have that table at my law office now. It's now for depositions and much more mundane things than family dinners. But I have great memories of sitting around that table, whether it was at a dinner or a Thanksgiving or a family dinner. I think that is the heart of the family is sitting down with the family and saying a prayer and talking about what happened that day. And I appreciate your bringing this to our attention. And I'm convinced you're right. And let's get the word out there.
Very good.
Thank you for coming tonight. Let's have a hand for family dinners, and let's all have one tomorrow night. You know, if it weren't for these council meetings, I'd be home for dinner right now. Next, I would like to recognize a candidate. We've got two candidates here. First, I want to recognize Dr. Betty Price, and she'll tell you about her candidacy. If she'll come to the microphone.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I appreciate this opportunity to address you this evening.
Dr. Price.
Yes.
You have more constituents out the other way. So let me give you a
I will talk in both directions. Is that all right?
You can start with us, but you got more votes out there.
Thank you all for coming and showing your interest in the affairs of the city, and it's great to see you all. I just want to let you all know I stand to state for the record that I have thrown my hat into the ring for Roswell City Council position 3, which is being vacated by David Tollison, who's running for another position. And I'm very excited about this. I think that the things that I've done in my life to this point are allowing me to offer myself to the city and hopefully bring the city in a direction that it's already going but needs to go in a little more or a little faster. So the things I have done so far that are pertinent are recently serving on the Design Review Board, which I've had to resign from in order to qualify for this position. I've also served on the board of the Roswell Historical Society, the Chattahoochee Nature Center, the Roswell Women's Club, where I chaired the Urban Improvement Committee, and we through that committee got the landscaping improvements that you see out at the triangle at the heart of Roswell. Been involved in a number of other things, senior services, North Fulton, where I've helped them rewrite their bylaws and presented good board members to their incoming classes. I think that I'm most interested in just deliberating on council and hoping to bring some professionalism and civility to the group, as some people, not everybody, might suggest that there's been some dysfunctionality there, but I don't know that that's entirely true. But certainly I'd like to hope that if I'm on council that we would be productive and move forward with the issues that are facing the city. I think we are concerned certainly with economic instability of late, and anything we can do to improve the redevelopment of Roswell and hopefully keep crime to a minimum, the things that go along with the stresses that we're under right now economically. And I'd like to participate in that. My son was born in this city at North Fulton Hospital. I worked there for a year as an anesthesiologist. I'm a physician by training. I met my husband, Tom Price, down at Grady and Emory Health Systems when we were doing our postdoctoral training. At this time, I'm no longer practicing medicine, and I hope that some of the expertise in the area, the way I've addressed problems, will show through in the way I conduct myself on council. I appreciate your encouragement, your support, your prayers, and mostly I ask for your vote. And I hope to see you at the ballot box on November 3rd, if not before. Early voting starts on October 13th, and you can certainly request an absentee ballot if you're unable to be there at any of those times. So thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you, Mayor and Council, and I'll let you all get on to your meeting.
Thank you, Dr. Price. Next, I'd like to recognize Mr. Lee Fleck, who is also running for office in Roswell.
Thank you, Mayor. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a little more somber atmosphere in Roswell today with the loss of a 22 years servant of the Public Safety Department. So I would prefer just expressing my condolences to the Danny Redmond family and, of course, pass my empathy on to the police department who he worked with for many, many years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fleck. I appreciate your sympathies for the family of our police officer. The visitation is tomorrow, and Mrs. Love, where would that be?
I believe it's the Huey Funeral Home in Canton. I don't have the information in front of me. And the funeral is at 11 a.m. on Wednesday. Visitation is tomorrow, I believe, from 5 to 8 p.m. We can get that. And it is Detective Danny Redmond, who was with Roswell for 20-plus years.
He was a great public servant, died of a heart attack Saturday, I believe, and we'll miss him. So, with that, we have excused absences for Councilmember Orlins and Councilmember Wynn. Mrs. Orlins also lost a father, so our sympathies are with her. Mrs. Wynn. And with that, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion by Councilmember DiPolito. Do we have a second? Second by Councilmember Henry. Does anyone in the audience have any questions regarding the consent agenda? Yes, ma'am? Did you have your hand up? No, she's hiding there. All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. At this time, I'll call upon Councilmember Richard DiPolito, liaison to the Community Development Department.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first item on the agenda is a conditional use CU09-02, GS Uwasa Lithium Power, Inc., Thomas Deacon, located at 1150 North Meadow Parkway. The applicant is requesting a conditional use for the purpose of manufacturing and assembly of space and aviation batteries. Mr. Townsend.
Thank you, Councilman DiPolito. This application is for a conditional use in the I-1 Industrial District. The conditional uses are required for any manufacturing or assembly. The request is for manufacturing and assembly of batteries which are used for space, aviation, or military purposes. The representatives are here this evening. This is to be located in an existing industrial building. There will be no changes to the exterior of the building. It will take approximately 30,000 square feet of the building located at 1150 North Meadow Parkway. This application was reviewed by the Planning Commission, which recommended approval at their meeting with 2 conditions. The conditions representing that the business be located at the location requested, 1150 North Meadow, and that any expansion or relocation of the business would require mayor and council approval. Those are the only 2 conditions that staff is recommending, and staff would recommend approval of the conditional use for this operation in the I-1 zoning district.
Does the council have any questions for staff? Yes, sir. Councilmember DiPolito.
Mr. Townsend, originally staff had a condition regarding environmental matters, but my understanding from reading the Planning Commission minutes is that that is not a concern or something that the staff has control over. Is that correct? Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
The staff originally had some concern that there might be some environmental issues with the manufacturing of the batteries, but once understanding more detail of their actual operation, this is more assembly of existing batteries and not making of new batteries, as well as most of that would be covered by a state or federal agent in dealing with those controls instead of locally.
So the environmental staff is not concerned about having this condition?
No.
Thank you.
Is the applicant present? Would you come forward, please? As mayor of Roswell, I want to, hopefully I'll be able to welcome you to Roswell.
I hope so.
It's great to have employers coming to town, and if there's anything that my office can do to help you, please let me know. You are welcome to Roswell.
Well, thank you very much. The staff has been very helpful in the process of filling out the paperwork and conditional approval, and I'm just, can't wait to get started. We're getting the lease and all the documents ready, so we'll be here as soon as we can.
Well, it's now. Tell us more about your batteries. Tell us about your company.
I'll give you a little bit about the company. GS Yuasa currently. Oh, my name is William All. I live at 12380 Brook Hill Crossing Lane. That's in Alpharetta.
That's all right. You're welcome to Roswell.
Yeah, I'm going to eat dinner with my family tomorrow night. I wouldn't be eating it with them tonight.
That's good.
GS Yuasa currently, in terms of revenue, is the second largest battery company in the world. So we've been around for about 110 years. We've been in the Atlanta area since 2002. We had a U.S. operation that was in California. We moved it here to be closer to one of our number 1 customers, which was Bell South, now AT&T, but we still say Bell South. So. And that was since 2002, and in 2004 we started a new business operation, which was lithium-ion batteries. And to date, most of that business has been buying the cells. These are the lithium-ion cells that we work with. They're made in Japan, and we bring the cells to the U.S. customers, and they were making the batteries out of them. But recently we have won a couple contracts where we are going to be the battery integrator. We have a contract to make a battery that's going to be on a cargo ship that goes to the International Space Station. That's the contract that we're using to fund the development for this new facility. So what we're making in Roswell is going to be at the International Space Station.
Well, we're excited to hear that, and you're welcome to Roswell.
All right.
Do we have anyone in the audience have any questions about this application? Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Councilmember DiPolito. Do we have a second? Second by Councilmember Eigelhart. Any further discussion? Councilmember DiPolito.
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to reiterate your comments that it's great to have a manufacturing facility who's interested in coming to Roswell, and really appreciate the fact that you all have chosen Roswell to locate. And I noticed in the Planning Commission meeting minutes that there's potential for further expansion and that you may want to have a larger facility, and hopefully this will be the first step, and as you're looking for that larger facility in the future, you'll consider Roswell as well.
That's correct. This is the first step. We're currently working other programs. We might be making batteries for Boeing for the commercial aircraft market. We're currently making some models in Japan, so hopefully we'll be making other ones here.
Great. Thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. Are you going to give us a battery for my office so I can put it there and display your
maybe
battery?
a mock-up.
A mock-up will be fine.
Yeah. The real batteries cost around $500,000. So.
Really?
When you go
so
to
how much do these batteries cost?
The ones that go to the space station are a little bit different than these. They're very special. These batteries are ones that we assemble for more aircraft or industrial applications.
Okay.
I don't bring the satellite batteries in here. I'm not allowed to take them out of the building.
So how big is the satellite battery?
In terms of footprint, it's probably about this big. There's
$500,000.
3 of them, though.
Last for many years.
That's awesome.
Well, you can't send up someone to fix it. So it has to work.
It has to work. That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
The next item is initiation of a text amendment to allow for keeping of companion animals and poultry in the backyard of single-family residential areas. Mr. Townsend.
Yes, this is a initiation of a text amendment on an ordinance related to, which initiated was for poultry in the backyard. What has been added to this for clarification has been a definition of companion animals. Companion animals is a definition we included in our current code. We are now recommending, staff is recommending that that be included as part of our zoning ordinance. And this will include such things as regular pets, dogs, cats, birds, hamsters, and other domesticated things that someone might keep. The other 2 definitions that were discussed at committee were the definition of livestock as well as a definition of poultry. Included in the ordinance in dealing with allowing poultry, the current initiation ordinance allows for the keeping of roosters, has a maximum number of poultry of 25. There is a requirement to keep a pen or coop to control the poultry, and there's a grandfathering clause that would allow keeping of over 25 birds for an additional 15 birds. This is an initiation. Staff would recommend this ordinance be initiated, go through the Planning Commission, and then would come back to Mayor and Council for 2 readings prior to adoption on the final ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Townsend, the definition of companion animal, I understand, was added by staff and has not been discussed by Mayor and Council.
That's correct.
Was that specifically added by staff, or did an elected official actually ask you to include that?
No, it was added by staff. We had some questions dealing with pygmy goats and Vietnamese pot-bellied pigs, and discussing it with the legal or lawyers, trying to determine what would be the best way to define. And once we defined livestock in this current manner, and we also had a definition in the code of existing companion animals, we wanted them to be consistent. We saw some inconsistencies in not having it in the zoning ordinance, but just having it in the code.
I'm a little uncomfortable adding this to this particular ordinance since we really hadn't had a chance to discuss it.
Okay.
And it's my thought to have this included at a committee meeting. We have one coming up, so it might be appropriate to add it at that point.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilman DiPolito, if I may, further to that, we had situation arise that was code enforcement related, and there was a need for clarification as it related to our officers having clear guidance in the field related to certain types of animals. So it was a complete staff initiative that I supported at that time. We certainly understand the need for that to come before committee, and we can put that on the committee agenda for the next Transportation Community Development Committee meeting. That's where it came from.
Council, do we have a motion?
I move to initiate the text amendment and I would like to eliminate the definition of companion animals until we've had an opportunity to discuss that at committee meeting. Is it possible, this is not part of my motion, but more of a question, is it possible to add it back in later if we're comfortable with it, or is it better to?
The answer is yes. It is possible to expand the definition to add companion animals at a later date, even though it's not included at this time. Or it's possible to eliminate it or to change it. So this is the initiation of a discussion. It's not, but if your motion as made will get this thing moving.
Let me just clarify then, since I interrupted my motion to ask a question. I would like to initiate the text amendment removing the definition of companion animals. I would also like to discuss that at committee and potentially add that back in the future once we've had a chance to further define it.
Motion by Councilman DiPolito to initiate the ordinance excluding the reference to companion animals. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Lori Henry. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to be heard at this time? Yes, sir. Come forward, please.
The only thing that concerns me about this is that it's hard for me to see how 25 chickens would be companions to me in my backyard. That sounds more like a utility type of, production for food or for eggs or something like that, and it could also cause quite a bit of racket, especially with the fact that roosters are not. There's no limit to the number of roosters. So, just as a resident, I certainly would not want my neighbor having 25 chickens or, 20 chickens and 5 roosters in their backyard.
Address for the record.
Thomas O'Connor, 200 Willow Springs Drive.
Thank you, Thomas. Who else would like to speak? Yes, come forward, please.
My name's Carmen Ford. I live at 585 Upper Hembry Road. I have a question in regards to this that I assume y'all are familiar with, the draft that I was given.
Yes, what's your question?
On page 3, in regards to 100 feet from any property line, would that in fact apply to people keeping chickens, or this was not something that we were aware of in previous drafts? 100 feet's a long way.
Reference to livestock.
So this doesn't apply to the rest of this?
Livestocks are defined differently and don't include poultry.
Okay. So it doesn't apply to the chicken owners?
Correct.
Okay. Thanks.
Just to comment on the livestock issue, I know we have a sort of a petting zoo on Stroop Road at the Gronholms. And he has pygmy goats. And we have, every time I pass by there are kids out there petting and feeding the pygmy goats. And there is no, he's in, I believe it's E1 zoning. And would this 100 feet apply to him also?
I'm probably going to have to talk to David.
Well, I'm just going to give you an example of a situation which he's well accepted in the neighborhood. The neighborhood loves, it's the little sign that says "Okay to pet goats." Right. He's a great member of the community, and I know in my community he has never created a problem with his neighbors, Mr. Gronholm, and I think it would be upsetting for the neighborhood if those goats didn't have as much room to graze. Right. So I don't know what all the other issues. I just know in the case of my neighborhood and Mr. Gronholm's goats, they're part of the community, and we love our goats, and we don't want to see them. We'd like to see them just like they are, and we appreciate Mr. Gronholm keeping our neighborhood petting zoo for us. It's a great thing in the neighborhood. Other comments? Anyone else wish to comment from the floor? Yes, sir. Come forward, please.
My name is Andrew Wordies. I live at 335 Alpine Drive, Roswell, Georgia. First, I want to thank Brad and Rich and Kay for helping us get to a point where I think we've got most of the big issues taken care of. One thing I am wondering is on Section 3E, it says enclosures, it says accessory structure and or fenced area. And then it goes on to say that if you're going to have an accessory structure, it must meet the zoning ordinance. I'm kind of confused there because a lot of us are going to have a doghouse to house it in or something small that's not going to conform. And another question I have is they point out that they were going to have a grandfather clause in here. And Jerry, I was wondering if you could tell us legally what a grandfather clause is.
With my mayor's hat on, I would prefer having our zoning staff explain that because
Okay.
they'll be more precise than I am. If you could respond to those questions, please.
The current ordinance, as drafted for the initiation, has a requirement for nonconforming numbers of poultry that, if adopted by mayor and council in its current form, would allow for a maximum of 25 poultry, and you could exceed this number by 15 for a total number of 40. The permit holder, the one owning the poultry, would be allowed to keep that number of poultry for their lifetime. And as those maximum number of 40 for the lifetime of those
The lifetime
birds,
of the chicken, not of the owner.
Right, lifetime of the chicken, and it then becomes, as the chickens die off, they come into conformance with a maximum number of 25. So in essence, we're grandfathering an additional 15 birds for the life of those birds.
Not to be rude, but what you're doing is giving me an exception to the rule. You need to look up the legal definition of grandfathering because that gives us the right to continue doing what we were doing prior to it being made illegal.
Well, that would be a
So-
standard grandfathering clause.
Right.
This is not standard because
Okay.
once the birds no longer live, they expire, you are coming into compliance with the 25
Okay.
requirement.
So it's an exemption to the rule as opposed to a grandfathering clause. That's
Correct.
all I had to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone else wish to speak? We have a motion and a second. Is any further discussion? This is a motion for initiation. Councilman Eigelhart.
I'm fine with moving forward with it, and we'll have many discussions as we go, so that's fine. I'm more than happy to do that. I did send an email response to some folks that I do hope to actually come see some of the examples of things like this, but I share some of the concern that when you have a large number of birds in a small neighborhood or a quarter-acre lot, then I have some concerns about that. And that number 25, may or may not be the right number. I'm not sure, and we don't always copy what Atlanta does. In fact, I'm not sure we ever do necessarily. But we'll see as we go along through that. But I'm not saying I'm approving of this as it is, but I am fine with moving forward and discussing and figuring out what we can make work. So that's my only comment at this point.
Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
Next item on the agenda is a text amendment regarding the expanded use of business banners. This is the second reading. Mr. Townsend.
Yes, this text amendment will allow businesses an additional 40 days of advertising per year. This will be included as part of the Find It All campaign for Roswell. There is a sunset provision as part of the text amendment to repeal this text amendment on December 31st, 2010. Staff would recommend approval of the second reading of the text amendment.
What is the application fee?
$25.
And that they could apply for
All
the
40
full,
days if they wanted.
Well, there's 40 plus 40, or is it?
Right.
They could turn in a schedule. They could apply for the whole schedule.
Yes.
Thank you. Any more questions for staff? Mr. Davidson, would you read the ordinance?
Thank you. This is an ordinance to amend the City of Roswell sign ordinance regarding Find It All in Roswell campaign and the use of temporary signs within the City of Roswell. Now therefore, pursuant to their authority, the mayor and council adopt the following ordinance. Article 22 of the City of Roswell zoning ordinance, signs, section 22.12, temporary signs, is amended by adding the following subsection A3 to it to read as follows, the text of which is included herein by reference, and if approved, this will be the second reading.
Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion by Councilmember DiPolito. Do we have a second? Second by Councilmember Henry. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
Next item is Sidewalk Cafe License Application SC09-02 for 946 9 South, 946 Canton Street. Mr. Townsend.
Yes, this is a Sidewalks Cafe license for the 9 restaurant on Canton Street. These are some of the existing tables and chairs located on Canton Street. In part of your backup material, there was a design There it is. This is the preferred layout by staff in reference to the access to the restaurant will remain in its current spot, like in the center of the front door. There will be fencing next, which will maintain a 5-foot walking pedestrian area next to the curb. We'll also have an ADA access gate at the northern entrance of the seating area. There was a second alternative. This alternative leaves the upper area of where the existing tables are higher level. Option A actually reduces that and makes them level with the existing tables that are next to the building. This option leaves them up there, but provides barriers on either end of them and around that location. There were 4 recommended conditions by staff. Includes option A, which is identified as September 3rd, the requirement for a fence or picket, a minimum of 42 inches in height, adjacent to the drop-off area. The change to have the flagstone replaced with matching brick, as well as the appropriate licenses to do the work within the public sidewalk area. Staff would recommend approval of option A for this application for the Sidewalk Cafe.
Does the council have any questions for staff? Councilmember DiPolito.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We've had concern voiced by the occupant of 948 Canton Street about the ADA access, and I think that's a legitimate concern. My question is, does this change the current ADA access? Is there any way to get to 946 other than going through the sidewalk in front of 948 currently?
No. That's the only ramp, only level ramp down.
So this doesn't change, effectively doesn't change the ADA access other than limiting it to that center portion?
Correct. And as the tables and chairs are set up now, that would be limited to that center portion also.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for staff? At this time, we'll hear is the applicant here tonight? If you'd come forward. First question is the plan option A, is that acceptable to you?
It is.
Any other comments that you would like to make at this time? I'll give you an opportunity to respond to other comments that are made from the floor.
Okay. But we're good with whatever works.
You may
for
have a
everybody.
seat.
Thanks.
Other folks here tonight who wish to be heard on this issue? Anyone else wish to be heard? Does the council have any questions for the applicant or staff? Any other questions? Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion for approval by Councilmember DiPolito. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Eichelhardt. Mr. DiPolito, were you adopting staff's conditions as part of that motion?
Yes, I'm adopting their conditions, and I believe one of those was for the option A.
And Mr. Eichelhardt, are you supporting that with conditions? We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
Next item on the agenda is initiation of a text amendment regarding parking requirements in the historic district. Mr. Townsend.
Yes. This proposed text amendment was reviewed by committee. It is recommended for the reuse of structures in excess of 50 years of age in the C1 as well as historic district would be exempt from the off-street parking requirement. But if there was any development, there could be no net loss in off-street parking. At committee, they recommended that it be brought forward to mayor and council for initiation. That is the draft. Staff is recommending approval that it be initiated.
Does the council have any questions for staff? Do we have a motion to initiate this ordinance change?
Move to initiate.
Motion by Councilmember DiPolito. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Henry. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
Next item on the agenda is initiation of a text amendment regarding animal hospitals and veterinary clinics. Mr. Townsend.
Yes. This topic was discussed at committee in allowing for animal hospitals and veterinary clinics to be a conditional use in the OP zoning designation. This is a draft of what would be initiated to allow them as a conditional use in that zoning district. As part of the committee discussion, they were dealing with an existing medical building on Warsaw and Holcomb Bridge that is in the OP zoning area. So staff would recommend this application or this text amendment be initiated to allow for the conditional use of animal clinics and veterinary clinics in the OP.
Does the council have any questions for staff? Do we have a motion?
Move to initiate.
Motion to initiate by Councilmember DiPolito. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Eichelhardt. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. We are adjourned. Good quick meeting, council.